That's better. Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Cosmetology Q A. This will be a really fun time for us to kind of network as well as cover anything that y'all might have questions about. I know that is a stressful time for those of you that are in adult education for cosmetology, and I figure that typically nighttime tends to be a better time to go live. So it also works for me. That'll probably be our thing going forward from here. So if anyone is here, just simply say hi. And if you have a nickname that you want me to call you, just say that as well. So let us see who is in the chat, if we have any of my regulars. And there is also a bit of a lag between the chat. So just, make sure you let me know that in case I'm not seeing your question. With that being said, I just want to jump in here and say the views and opinions are my own and just my own. I don't represent any brand, group, or anything like that. Strictly just a regular cosmetologist, been teaching for quite a few years and have had quite a few experience in the field as well. With that being said, if there's anyone who has questions on a specific chapter or needs clarification, I have the My Lady textbook, and I think I might have a book or two of Pivot Point. I have the full Pivot Point at a family member's house, so I got to pick all that up. For quite a while, because you had my work that was about almost an hour away from where I lived, so I had to go there. I had a family member's house that was halfway through, and I just kind of crashed there, kind of set up my own little makeshift office. It was either that or the local coffee shop, and I figured that the coffee shop would not like me going in there with like a stack of books and taking up all that space. I also had this really cool experience. I did a body wave on the mannequin, and I did a bit of a roller set and a tease on her. So it came out pretty good. So who do we have in here? I've also gotten a chance to check out the, I believe it was the Pivot Point book. No, My Lady got, they got a facelift, for lack of a better word. They got a book, but I think they cut chapters from it, which I think they cut the business chapter, which I think is the worst because how are we going to learn those skills? I know that they got an update, and, My Lady, certain things need an update, and every time a book says they made an update or they made, X and Y change, it really doesn't change in the book's favor. It actually gets worse. So that is something I have been noticing. I myself, I was trained on My Lady, and we had just gotten the brand new book. It was the woman with red hair who's wearing her hair as a scarf. That's the My Lady that we used, and I think that was from like 2012. And they used that from 2012 to, I think it was all the way up until like 2017, 2016. They used the book for quite a few years. It's not often that they update it. And the one thing too that I found with My Lady is that My Lady has techniques in there for just about everything. And the one technique that they always fall short on is keratin treatments. They do a very poor job explaining what a keratin is, and they never cover the keratin treatment at all. So that is really interesting how there is no universal procedure for a keratin treatment. It's pretty much getting certified by the brand, and that's what makes you able to do that service. When I did cosmetology, we had the express keratin treatment because that was like the biggest thing, the newest thing, I should say. And it lingered for a while. And I had clients up until the shutdown that we had in our state. They were doing keratin treatments regularly. Shutdown happens. And I had a client who she would wear her hair. It was very basic style. It was kind of like a lob, and, she had bangs, and it was smooth and straight. She chopped it all off to like a really short blonde haircut. So it was always really interesting to see, where styles are going. And that's a topic I wish they would cover more in depth in cosmetology, because it is style, hair is fashion. They don't do a good enough job covering that, in my opinion. The first chapter, they talk a little bit about the hair history, and, that's about it. They don't really delve into how trends are set, how trends evolve. And they kind of leave it open, like, the year 2010 and up, pretty much anything goes, which is kind of true, kind of not, because styles are evolving. And typically you're finding that texture-wise, you either go from really curly or wavy or straight, and that's kind of just the big thing. Like back in my day, we had the emo, the scene haircuts where it was short, it was straight, it was level 1B blue hair color with a stripe of red or purple. That was what we had, the block coloring. Now you see all these crazy colors, like, and this mannequin I did, it was, I did this, I was inspired by the cups. If you remember from the 90s, they have like the patterns, the blue and the purples. That was my inspiration. So I kind of did that look, and I did the perm, the body wave, and the roller set to kind of emulate that. I also touched up a few pieces with the hot iron because sometimes the roller set, if the roller set is not good, it's very wise to go in there and just do a touch up. Because my mistake with this mannequin is that I'm still saving up for a dryer that I can do demos at home with. You know, cheap dryer to, you know, get, maybe a used one. I have a steamer. The only problem with the steamer is that you cannot set a roller set with the steamer. And the other cool thing too is I was able to get, for a really good deal, it was like buy one, get one free, because the beauty supplier just didn't have any, you know, market for them. I got smaller sized spring irons, which I had fun with. Some of the weird sizes, like for example, one of the irons is a 5/8 inch curling iron. That's not a common number, but the texture of it is really cool because it's not as tight as a 1/2 inch and it's not as big as a 3/4. So you can kind of make the iron, you know, work how would you like it to. You can make it work like a bigger one, just taking bigger sections and, you know, clicking and doing your technique to get all the hair in there. The other technique that I did with this, so this was a basic perm wrap using 1 inch green perm rods, green color, from, was it Diane? I think it was not Diane, Salon Care. Salon Care basic perm rods. They last a little bit longer, in my opinion. 1 inch, the green ones. I perm the hair with Zotos, the 5 one. It's the body one. You can do the pink box, or the silver box. This one was the extra volume, so it's just a stronger acid wave. I left it on. I also put a lot of deep conditioner in this mannequin's hair because this mannequin was completely cooked. So we did a protein treatment to kind of restore the hair. You know, that's another thing too. I see people doing these perm fails and all these perm videos. The reason why the perm fails, it's because, hey there, Echo, great to see you. Oh, fantastic. Now we're getting some of my regulars. No worries. We just kind of got into this. So any questions, just ask. If you want to cover a specific chapter of the My Lady book, let me know. I'll go grab the book. I'm just going over, y'all are getting a nice little sneak peek of what's to come next week for our perm video. See, I was smart. I did a trip, right? I did about a 2-week trip to Georgia this year. I do a big trip every year where I, you know, go to visit a different city. Had a convention as well. So I went down to Georgia. It was fantastic. Everyone was kind there. I learned a lot about their specific state's culture, their history. Had a fantastic time. The one thing I will say that came out of the trip is that we were supposed to go on a family trip, and it just so happened that it was either one or the other. Hey there, Juana, how are you? So what ended up happening was my mom, sister, and dad, they ended up going to Florida, and I got stuck here. So what happened was, you know, I'm at home and I had work. I used the time wisely, and I took the time to do all these perm videos. I did that for a reason. I had all these great ideas. I had my, you know, big ideas book, and I broke down the lesson plan and, you know, want to do good quality videos. However, my mom is a hairdresser. You would think that she wouldn't really mind the smell of a perm. I remember I did the perm and I was trying to be very courteous. I try to do them when either everyone's out of the house or when everyone's sleeping. Well, I will never do it again while everyone's sleeping because I did it at 3:30 in the morning and my phone blew up. It was like fireworks. Ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, all right. She gave me quite the text with teeth. This is inconsiderate and this is not fair and the perm stinks and da-da-da-da. So I ended up doing the perm while everyone was gone. That way no one could complain. Oh, thank you, Echo. So Echo and Juana, if you have any, chapters that you want me to review from the My Lady Cosmetology book, you know, just type in what you want me to review, and I will stay here until we get all that information covered, until everything is good. You know, I consider this my way of, like, you know, community service, giving back to the cosmetology community, the students, because I know that cosmetology is brutal. Every state is different with the rules and requirements, and it is changing, right? So some states are becoming a little bit more laxed, which I actually like. So, for example, California shrunk their hours. It used to be California. Your cosmetology program was about 2 years, not even kidding. 2 years, and the state board exam was brutal with a capital B, and it would be so stressful. There's actually a really good channel because I like to support my fellow educators in the field, that they inspired me to be an educator, and it was Beauty Health Travel is the account name. They do some pretty darn good stuff, and their stuff still holds true to today. And what we always do too is, it's like any kind of science, because cosmetology is a science and an art. We try to replicate those studies and see if it works. This mannequin, it was an example of a basic perm. We did protein treatments to make sure that it was fortified. And in addition to fortifying the hair, we also, in the video, you're going to see me do this. I fortified it before neutralizing with a little protein, and I did it after, really hard in the hair. She did start to feel a little scary, which I anticipated because on this side it was completely bleached. But all in all, shedding was minimal. Absolutely minimal. Oh, and can y'all hear me? Just want to make sure. Give me 1 sec, because I think I have the fan on. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So the mannequin, we ended up covering. We did a protein treatment, and the protein treatment after kind of helped reharden the hair. She felt a little scary. The other important thing, and this is a really good tip for everyone, is when you have the mannequin, right, or a person, and you're checking for the S pattern. The My Lady book never really says this explicitly, but the big thing is that this kind of perm will be more of a C shape instead of an S. It's less prominent, so it can be easier potentially to overprocess. However, the acid waves, they typically are no test curl. You just kind of leave it on for the 20 minutes and you rinse. Personally, me being in the field for a while, I always believe in test curling because I don't always trust that. All right, awesome. So Juana, you want to know the hair theory. I will go get the book. And I believe that was chapter 6. I could be wrong. I'm going to be right back. I think it's upstairs in my bookshelf. All right, I am back. So Echo says, I don't have any specific chapters in mind. I just love how you teach and explain the book. You make it entertaining and informative. Thank you, Echo. And Echo says, I bet the weather is nice right now in Utah. I've never been there, planning to go this year. So what I do is when I go live, because I know a lot of my viewers on the West Coast, when I do live at night, I put the thing so it helps them, find it easier. I have not been to Utah yet, but I hope to go soon. I know, I think Ternika is from Utah as well. I know she missed the last video. I think she might be on too. Okay, Juana, so you requested hair theory. Hair theory is going to be, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, because it says Chapter 11, Properties of the Hair and Scalp. Juana, you're right. I bet you're right, because I was actually not too long ago, I was in Nevada. I tend to go to Nevada a lot. Nevada, Arizona. I do want to go to Utah and Colorado at some point as well, just to experience it. Because I know that even though the states are very close, they all have their own fantastic culture, and like the native food is delicious. I think I only went to one in my lifetime, one Native American restaurant out west, and it was so amazing how they made the cactus. They actually cook cactus, and like I thought it was neat, like the prickly pear, and there was another type that they made. Oh, it's beautiful out there. And then you get to see so California, I've been to. California is, depending on where you go, beautiful. However, back in the day, we had to go to the Energizing Summit, which was in Los Angeles, and it was in not such a nice area. So they told us that pretty much do not leave the hotel, which is pretty scary. And then we found out why the hard way, which I probably can't explain on here or I'll get censored. But California has some beautiful landscapes. Bakersfield is gorgeous. We were there as well as parts of San Fran, the historical district, beautiful as well. And I wanted to see more of what they call NoCal or Northern California. I also wanted to see Oregon, Washington State, have not been blessed to yet. Much like I haven't really toured much of New England, I've been to Massachusetts, Salem, did not have enough time to go to Boston. And I've toured Delaware, is very beautiful. I find that Delaware is very underrated. It's got a lot of history. It is very beautiful. People are nice. The beaches are nice, as well as different parts of the South I usually travel through a lot. I go to Tennessee quite a bit, North Carolina, Virginia, all very nice. Okay, so properties of the hair and scalp. So let's start off. I always like how my lady, they always start the book with a fun little thing, and maybe some of the things as fun examples. They talk about Lady Godiva. I don't know if any of y'all know who Lady Godiva is, but basically she was protesting taxes. She kind of was like, in a way, a combination of, how do I word this? A combination of the Patriots from 1776 and Paul Revere. She was protesting taxes, so she rode El Nudo, no clothes on, and she was known for her long and beautiful, luscious hair. There was a show I used to watch back in the day, and basically, and the title of the show is called Starved. It was a really, really funny sitcom. It had a commercial, and it had this famous actress who played Zelina in, not Charmed, Zelina in Once Upon a Time. And her commercial was called Lady Godiva, and she had this long, wavy, luscious red hair. And it was flowing in the wind. So, yeah, that was that. The book talks a little bit about that, and then they talk about crowning glory, and that's what people refer to as hair, and how hair is your best fashion accessory. Redken even made a whole hairstyle based on it. So, why study the properties of the hair and the scalp? Just any of y'all that are in the comments, comment down below. Take about a minute or two. Give me all the reasons why it's important to study properties of the hair and scalp. There's a lot of them, so the list is probably like that. The book says you need to know why the hair grows and why it falls out in order to be able to differentiate between Normal and abnormal. Echo says, no idea. Oh, just give your best guess, right? No wrong answers. Juana, that's a really good one. And that's actually one I didn't even think about. So Juana says to keep clients safe. Yes. And I'll tell you why. Let's say, and again, this is a really gross example, but it will help y'all remember this. Let's say that you have a client sit down in your chair, happened to a coworker of mine, and we witnessed it. We also smelled it. She had this client, and the client had an odor that kind of like lingered as well. And I don't think it was really the client's fault. It was what was going on up here. So, and by that, I mean the scalp, not her mind. So she sat down and then she goes, okay, I want a shampoo, a haircut, and a set. So what happened was my friend took this client to shampoo bowl and she went to go do the shampoo and she felt something weird, like really, really hard, almost like it was a helmet. And then when she pushed harder, it made like a cracking sound. This client had such a bad scalp fungus. It was like pityriasis sciatodes, or scatula is the other word for it. It's the buildup of the dead skin cells, and biofilm is a better word for it. And this client, mind you, this being shampooed with no gloves on, so now my friend had to worry about, what did she just touch on her skin? Did she have to worry about fungus or bacteria? The smell that came out of that was very mousy. My friend had to walk around to the back of the salon, compose herself, because she said that she felt her lunch go up like here, and it completely sunk down again. So you could potentially be dealing with a very serious infection. And is it a wise idea to work on a client that has lice, also called pediculosis, hint, hint for your test, as well as dandruff? Let me take a step back there. Not all dandruffs are pathological or dangerous in the salon. Some of them, if it's shown by hair loss and maybe like the rings like ringworm, that's a type of fungus that you want to stay clear of and that you cannot treat the client until they have a written thing. Echo says, my God, the client didn't warn her. How rude of her. I feel bad for your friend. Echo, you're right. It's unfortunate. And sometimes I try to give people the benefit of the doubt until you live in New Jersey. And that's a bit of a New Jersey, New York joke because people can be really rude when they do that. We had a client and she had head lice. That's pretty bad and could potentially be dangerous because lice transmit disease. She came in there and she had, I think it was her and her children. They wanted to get kids' haircuts. And that is something that a lot of salons will say no to. They have specialty salons. You cannot treat someone with lice unless your salon is certified to do the delousing treatment. Our salon was not. So, she was lying and saying, oh, it's not lice, it's something else. Now, this is where it's really funny, right? People that truly know me know that I studied entomology for a while. I don't mind insects. I don't like wasps, but I don't mind insects. I know what a louse looks like, and I know how to take something and say, okay, this is what we're dealing with. I also trained people in the salon how to do that because it's a skill that's actually important, knowing entomology. It helps you with a lot of things. In hair, we deal with primarily head lice. And there's another kind of louse, also known as crabs, which is a different species of louse. Look that up on your own, which might be an issue for those that are waxologists. And normally when I tell this to a class, I have the class laugh and they go all crazy and like this. And I'm like, all right, come on, guys. But it's a serious issue, both, head lice and the other lice if you're a waxologist and you do the bikini wax, because that might be an issue and you cannot treat a client. Are you going to, risk getting those bugs everywhere, all over your comb and all that? No, that's disgusting. Juana said, I have a customer like that in the school not too long ago. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, Juana. So all great things. And the book also says knowing what creates natural color and texture is a vital part of being able to offer a variety of chemical services to clients. That always trips up students a lot. And what the book is referring to is they can do a better job at explaining this. Natural hair color is important, especially for those of us that go into specialize in hair coloring. Now, here's where it's appropriate to talk about culture. There was a really good hairdresser, Tom Dispenza. If y'all look him up and subscribe, he does a fantastic program. It is not brand specific. He went around and he tested different hair around the world, every different culture and country. He did all the Asian countries, and he found general findings. This is important because sometimes someone could be a natural level natural level 3, but they might live closer to the equator where your body produces more melanin. And as a result, if you try to do a bleaching service, you might be pretty shocked because that one bleach that you get that says, lifts 9 levels and, gets you platinum blonde, you go over to the shampoo bowl to go take the foils out. It's been like 2 hours and you see that she is a screaming orange level 8 and you're like, what happened? Well, what happened is the hairdresser didn't take a look at trichology and the hair science. Another important thing too is think about certain services, right? Fitzpatrick scale, because this is talking about hair and scalp, but we talk about melanin. Melanin colors our hair. It also gives us our skin color as well. Someone who has darker skin, dark eyes, and dark hair, it is very unlikely that they will be able to be safely lifted to that beautiful level 10 platinum blonde. And that's where you as a professional will have to say, okay, you do a strand test always, because you want to get an idea. The general rules that you find from Tom, they work, but there's always exceptions, right? You'll always get that rare client that you think that her hair is going to lift easy and then she just turns orange. I had a client, we've tried everything. We've tried demineralizing the hair. We tried scalp analysis, and she always got very sensitive during the color and her hair would never lift. She was a natural level 7 and we could not get her to a level 10. Someone tried bleach and 40 volume, right? People that know me know I don't believe in going above 20 volume. That didn't work. Her hair would not lift and she still got sensitive. That's just what her scalp was like. And going on Juana's point, the book says spotting an unhealthy scalp condition that could be harboring a communicable disease or even be causing permanent hair loss is a way to aid your client in caring for their scalp and well-being. So another thing too, right? We're not doctors, and I tell people, there's been a lot of issues in the cosmetology movement where people have been delving into the areas of no return. There's been certain hairdressers that get involved into politics, which is a huge no-no. There's been hairdressers that get involved in, different things that have nothing to do with hair or in the salon. And they get involved in things like, there's one that is borderline teaching them how to be like a counselor, which I don't agree with because that's for a counselor. And medicine is especially a big one. You cannot diagnose, you cannot prescribe. What you do is you suggest and you recommend, or you require for them to come back that they get a doctor's note saying that they are cleared of whatever scalp infection is going on. And that's because, it's also against certain state rule violations that you cannot treat a client with communicable disease. So let's talk about the structure of the hair. The scientific study of the hair and its disease is called trichology. Trichology, and this is where it's another weird thing, right? Back in the day, you used to go to a trichologist. However, especially in many states, there is no nationally recognized trichologist association. That's what I think is so unfortunate. I think that with enough push and enough people that are interested, we can get a viable career opportunity for people that want to study trichology and get those people into the field, because trichology is a great field. You can make money in it. Other places in the world, they value their trichologists, like Australia and Britain. We do scalp assessments. And I'll type this in right here. There's a brand called Mediceuticals, and they do a really good program. I did a program with them. Coastline was offering it. And Mediceuticals Hair Care. This brand teaches you to think like a trichologist and to analyze the hair and the scalp with the microscope. Juana, that's a great point. That's right. In Japan and Korea, they do that as well. And they have a better way of also analyzing skin. One of the big take homes in this chapter is to know that hair is hair, scalp is skin. I cannot tell you how many times when I try to talk about shampoo and conditioning, I have my entire class, they give me a hard time. They'll go, why do we have to learn that? I already know how to shampoo my hair. And I'm sitting there and I'm always nice. And I said, well, honestly, do you really though? Like, tell me some more. And they'll just say, you throw the shampoo on, you get it all over the place and you rinse it. And I go, no, that is not a proper shampoo. That can even cause damage to hair. One of the things that is important is that when you look at it from a trichology perspective, this skin right here on my forehead is no different than the skin of my scalp. If I'm going to use all kinds of great skincare on my face and I'm going to cleanse it and I'm going to, put all kinds of treatments on it, why am I not treating my scalp and my clients the same way? Shampoo is shampoo. The ingredients are relatively the same. The only thing that varies is the pH. So the one important thing to know is that when you're talking hair and scalp, know that with hair, You're going to treat the hair differently. It reacts differently to shampoo versus the scalp that you got to mechanically scrub, get all those dirt and the debris off it, and then you could do a deep conditioning treatment, which typically goes in your ends of your hair. Most of my students would shampoo their hair like this, and that can cause knots and tangling, especially for curly hair. So let's talk a little bit about the structures of the hair. You have two parts when you talk about the human hair. And that's a nice little map right there. You have the hair root, which is what we don't see. And you have the hair shaft, which is what we see. So every time I hear people talking about a root touch-up, it's like nails on a chalkboard. And my cosmetology teacher, back when I was in school, would tell us, I would say, I'm going to do a root touch-up. And she would say, a what? And I would say, a root touch-up. And she kept this up for 5 times. And finally she goes, so Vinny, you're going to dig up her hair roots and then color them? I said, no. She goes, and what are you doing? Regrowth application, a retouch application. Juana says, yes, it is true. My hair was very damaged before I took shampoo class. Mine as well. So the running joke is I have the dreaded Latino and Italian hair. So my dad, who is he's a Latino in my family, he's Afro-Puerto Rican. His hair, it would grow outward and it would be like coily. My mom's was super curly. So I got a combination of both of theirs where I have a lot of it. And believe it or not, this is my hair when I started using acidic pH products. My hair before that, before I knew how to properly shampoo and I was using a very high pH shampoo, was curlier, but not in a good way. It was wiry, it was poofy, it was beyond frizz to all high heavens. And that was before I knew all the good skills. And if any of y'all ever take this class, they do great education. The Hair Freaks and Color Geeks, it's called. And they also have an online education library. So anytime that, y'all do a membership, you get access to their library and new videos monthly as well. Echo says, I never thought of it like that. Treating my scalp with the same care as if it was my face. I forgot skin too. I did as well. It was not until I had Lois from Mediceuticals. She's awesome. She does a great class. She's like one of their best educators too. She teaches it like that. And she goes, your hair is hair, your skin is scalp. And I'm like, this is like a light bulb. Like, wow, I never even thought about it. I always thought that this was different for some reason. And Echo says, but my hair makes me feel as if it makes my scalp different and thicker. I think I get where you're going there, because like the hair, the weight of it and then the thickness of it, it kind of creates an illusion. So there's 5 main structures to the hair. And I don't know if I can screen share on here. I cannot, dang it. You have 5 main structures. Hey there, Kira, how are you? Or is it Kiara? Did I say that right? Let me know. Awesome. So the 5 main structures of the hair, you have the hair follicle, the bulb, the dermal papilla, the erector pili muscle, and the sebaceous, or what's called the oil gland. Sebum is that fatty, gross substance that we get all over our skin and our hair, and it, again, really gross, but this will help you memorize this. Your sebaceous glands constantly produce oil. Think of someone who does not shower. Not only do they smell really bad, but they have that gross, oily feel. And if they've been on like someone's couch, the couch has that like oily residue. That is from sebum. Everyone's sebum is custom to them. It's made up of different types of lipids, also known as fats. And there's a vested interest in this area where cosmetologists who work in research and scientists are trying to find ways to make custom skincare that matches your sebum and your ceramide levels to help deliver skincare that works specifically for you. And I think that's pretty interesting. So the hair follicle. The hair follicle, and this will be on your test, is a tube-like depression or pocket in the skin. Your follicle is just the empty pocket. Now, on someone who is bald, they still have hair follicles, but guess what? For one reason or the other, that follicle is empty. Maybe the hair is already shed. It's in the resting phase. Hair follicles we have all over the body with the exception of the palms of our hands and the soles of the feet. the follicle is able to extend from the epidermis into the dermis. So know that, right, we have their epidermis, our hair follicle, it's almost like a cake. Think of it like this. If you have a cake, right, and you have your icing and you have your cupcake, and you take a toothpick and you stick it in there, that toothpick would represent the hair itself. The space between, or the little pocket in there that you just made, that little pocket where you can take that toothpick out and put a new one in is your follicle. And that follicle goes throughout the icing into the cupcake. Good way of remembering that analogy. I actually did that as a learning example, a little exercise where I'd either have the students make a dessert or bring in a cupcake, and we would try to, like, label the anatomy of whatever they brought in there, because that was my one thing. I'm like, you know what? If my students are going to eat in class, I might as well make it a learning experience. And just know that sometimes you will have more than one hair that is growing from a single follicle. Now, the older versions of My Lady, and there's a reason for this, they used to go more in depth to trichology with the whole process of what happens when one hair grows, the other hair grows. Basically, if two hairs are in one follicle, they're either peaceful or it can cause inflammation, a blockage, and then one of the follicles will die, and you get like the skin condition of furnicle. Oh, Kira, I'm glad you mentioned this. So I hope y'all don't mind, because sometimes I jump around in the book if it's just like a mellow session. Kiara asks a great question. In your opinion, does hair thinning products work? Trying to figure out what to tell my clients. I always word it like this, because hair loss is so broad. Let's go to the hair loss section. Hair growth and hair loss. Your clients that have hair loss, the book says that hair loss has an emotional toll. Hair loss can be detrimental to your clients, especially women and even men, right? Men, when they start balding, the book talks about how men get impacted just as well as women do. So when women experience hair loss, it could be for different reasons. If your client just gave birth, typically that's called telogen effluvum. The birth and the hormonal hair loss cause massive shedding. The good news is, for the most part, the hair will grow back. What you never want to do for the client is guarantee that something will happen, because worst case scenario, you recommend those products and say this will work, this and that. Your client is going to try it. It's not going to work, and she is going to sink down into a horrible feeling mentally. What you want to word it as is say, let's give it the good old college try. The other thing that's really important too is know that there's only 2 drugs in the market, and this is covered in the book, that are recommended for hair loss. One of them is minoxidil, which, make sure I get that right. That's right. Minoxidil is the generic name. Rogaine, if anyone knows what Rogaine is, that's what minoxidil is. It's cheaper, and you'll find this out, cheaper to get the actual, drug that's in there over the counter than it is to get the brand names like Rogaine. They'll make all kinds of, claims that, it contains bark of the willow tree and, lavender for soothing. Now, do those ingredients work? Not so much. So minoxidil, you have to use it twice a day on the scalp. It is sold over the counter, and 2 different strengths. 2% is usually the regular one, and that's given to typically females because too much minoxidil might also cause hair on the face. And they have a 5% extra strength solution. It does not have any particular serious side effects, but the one thing is that when you stop using the minoxidil, the hair that you get from it will fall out. So it's twice a day for a lifetime, which can also be difficult. So like, let's say someone's traveling, right? Do you know how difficult it is to travel with, all kinds of stuff like your beauty products? It's near impossible, and you have to check a bag in, and what if you can't make the check-in? That happened to me. I actually had to throw out, I think I threw out once $40 worth of products because I ended up going to Tennessee, and on the way back, I was taking an Uber, the traffic was bad. All those products had to toss right out because I couldn't check in a bag. I was so mad. And the other one is finasteride, and that's an oral medication for men only. It has very bad side effects if females take it. It also can cause birth defects. The other thing with finasteride is that they're realizing that it does cause serious side effects for men as well. And you're typically going to hear that called Propecia is the drug that finasteride is under. Now, there are shampoos that might help to clean off the DHT. That might be effective for your client, but again, they have to be consistent with it. Certain products, like, for example, Mediceuticals, they talk about hair loss, and they use a lot of the hair and scalp theory, which is true, but you have to keep using it and take the vitamins. Other things like taking a vitamin is important as well. Yeah, that's exactly right, Kiara. Nioxin is a prime example of that. And also, how did you, so if it's not too personal, also congratulations on the baby. Did the hair start coming back after a while? Because I know it is very traumatic when you have that. And the book, they call that postpartum alopecia. It's temporary. It's towards the end of the pregnancy. And usually because of hormones, the pregnancy disrupts the hair cycle. It causes excessive shedding from 3 to 9 months after delivery. It's traumatic to the new mother, but the growth cycle gets back to normal. And it's also important to know that sometimes hair changes in different ways, right? Hormones are magical things. There was a woman I knew, and you know how some parents will say that their child literally sucked the life out of them? So this was an example of that. She used to have the beautiful, it was like towering, thick, I think it was curly, thick, naturally glossy, beautiful curls. It was black hair, shiny. She was like a natural level 1. She had the baby, and the hair loss was so severe, her hair not only came out in clumps, it grew back very limp and very straight. Her skin became blotchy, and she developed dry skin and wrinkles, and her nails got really brittle and cracked and broke. Now, that's a rarity. It does happen, but there's also cases where the client, just out of nowhere, their hair is different. I've had clients that we would lift the client with a high lift hair color to a level, we lift her to about like a level 7, and we would tone her, with permanent hair color. And after her pregnancy, we also gave her a perm too. She had thicker hair after pregnancy, and it became wavier as if we just permed it. It was like the perm never went away. And we also gave her a different hair color formula because her hair got so much lighter that we had to darken it. It was really crazy how that happens. Going forward, because again, this book was written in 2012, and my lady information tends to be a little older, we might start seeing that in the future. There's a lot better technologies that are coming out to help people, which I think is fantastic because this is an area that we need to see a lot of research in. Whoever finds the perfect cure for baldness will honestly be a multi-billionaire beyond any stretch of the imagination. So hair loss products like Nioxin, do they work? They might or might not. The science behind it is limited. What does work is the solution for the scalp. Also, having your client go to a doctor, right? Because hair loss can be medical. If your client is anemic or if your client has autoimmune issue like alopecia, those are all medical conditions that it doesn't matter what brand of hair loss product you use, nothing except a medical intervention will help that. So, the book also mentions this in the Did You Know box. The expression, you are what you eat. No, and this is important to know for the test, the body can only produce 11 out of 20 amino acids that make up your hair. Your diet must include the 9 essential amino acids that the hair and scalp need. This is why any type of radical dieting can cause hair loss, lackluster hair, and unhealthy scalp conditions. Know that proteins in meats, fish, and eggs, and dairy products are good sources of the amino acids. However, let's say your client is vegan, right? If your client is vegan, they need to get a supplement. Or do combinations such as peanut butter and bread and rice and beans, or beans and corn to combine them. Echo asks, do you believe in biotin for hair growth? I do, because a lot of people can be deficient in supplements. Mediceuticals is one of my favorite supplements, and this is just me trying all of them. I tried there was one of them, not Nutrafol. Nutrafol is another brand that I think people were using. There was another good one, like actually, I'll show you all an example because I have some on my shelf. Oh, fantastic. I like the dialogue, y'all. These are the kinds of discussions that I wish we had in my in-person cosmetology class, because that's something that, it's interesting. I tend to find that when I taught online with, during the whole situation in 2020, that a lot of students learned better online because they were able to dialogue with one another, and it was easier because they would chat in the chat together. I encourage that because I believe that we were learning. I had a coworker who is no longer there, who was the exact opposite of me. It was the funniest thing because I had a group of her students. They wanted me as their teacher, and I'm like, oh gosh, don't say that. Kiara, I'm glad you mentioned that with Olaplex, the big O brand. Now, the reason I'm not a fan of Olaplex is that their conditioner is a really good conditioner, but their shampoo is very high in pH. And on top of it, the science behind Olaplex, and I've been a victim of this, is not there to protect damage or help hair in any way. That was the one thing that I was like, my jaw was hitting the floor. Olaplex was not directly sued, but other brands were. So Olaplex, believe it or not, when you talk about hair and scalp, they're good at marketing. When Olaplex came out, it was only 3 products: number 1, 2, and 3. And 3 was a take home. It was a really nice deep conditioner. Olaplex number 1, we would either do an Olaplex treatment, a standalone. That honestly did not do anything from the hair. All that it was potato starch water. If you read the fine print in the Olaplex, it'll mention does not work in an alkaline environment. What is perm? What is bleach? What is hair color? All alkaline. What is Olaplex's shampoo? That shampoo can either be a 7 on a good day, and I've had batches that end up being 8 or a 9. Very alkaline. I compare Olaplex because it is also very concentrated, their shampoo. I think Olaplex is, I've actually used it to wash dishes, believe it or not. There's a shampoo that, back in the day was called Prel, and it's still around. It's concentrated, shampoo. Now, again, back in the day in the 70s when we were not shampooing our hair and you had women and men that had layers of hairspray on, you needed that to kind of strip through everything, right? Juana, that's a really good point. She says, I heard if you use Olaplex too much, your hair becomes brittle. It can. It's the shampoo. Echo says that she uses 4 and 5 and feels though she is using it wrong. Now, are you feeling that your hair is feeling more brittle after? Are you feeling that it feels dry after? And again, this is use this as a learning example too, because a lot of times with clients, if they're using a product that, and they're reporting it feels a certain way, it's important to dialogue that. And this is a good example of this, tying in what we're learning here about hair and scalp, right? Every other day. Yeah. See, I wash my hair every other day. Sometimes I change it up a little bit. Now, if y'all want me to go into my specific hair routine that I use for myself and just a general one, I can also do that too. Because it's something that when I learned this, it was like I've been doing hair for 10 years and I didn't even know how to shampoo properly or properly use a shampoo system. I probably felt about this big because all the information that I spent learning with when I worked for L'Oreal, I had to basically pluck out of my brain and just toss. That's right. Juana says I wash my hair every day. And sometimes, believe it or not, there are hair types and scalps out there where you have to. There are some people that you'll put them under the microscope because I have the scalp scope and their follicle, you can just see it pulsing. It's pulsing with oil. It is crazy how that happens. So I think I get what you're saying that the hair, it's soft at the touch, but it has like either a wiry or slightly frizzier look. This is the issue. I'll also show you all this. Now, Echo, what could be going on with your hair is the fact that when you have a very high pH and you put hair in an alkaline environment, like Olaplex shampoo, right? That's up there in pH. You put your hair in an alkaline environment, it's going to soften and swell the hair. Then you're going to put conditioner, which helps to, reestablish the hair. But over time, that constant exposure to the product that's alkaline will make the hair feel brittle. So I have with me here, and this is, after knowing better with brand-free education, I do not touch a single product now, unless I'm doing a YouTube experiment, that does not have the pH on the bottle. This is Triorganics Complex Leave-In Conditioner, pH of 5.5 to 6.0. This right here is Head Liquid Gold, and it has a pH on the back, pH of 4.5. When a product like Redken does this, and they'll say pH balance, my response is pH balance to what? And then my response is the pH on the bottle? And if the pH is not on the bottle, I will not touch it for myself or my clients. Because there is no requirement to have the pH on the bottle, anything that the company says, okay, it's acidic in pH. Well, how do I trust that? I usually carry around either my meter or my pH papers, and I test it. Get you some of the pH papers from the health food store or Whole Foods and take that and test some of your shampoos and conditioners. Y'all will be very shocked at what comes up. The other important thing, right? I've had, and you'll see, brands like, there was one brand, it says great for curly hair. And then I test the pH and the pH is like jacked up to a 10. And I'm like, yeah, you use that on curly hair, you're going to get frizz and you're going to get the curl pattern that's droopy. It's also, and then Echo says, actually, Echo, that's a great question. She asks, should I be washing my hair with hot or cold water? So again, lukewarm, if it's hot to where it's burning your skin, it's probably not a good idea for the scalp. But again, it's personal preference. I usually recommend lukewarm water. Wet your hair, put the shampoo on your fingertips and start to shampoo the scalp. Massage the scalp a little bit, get the shampoo on there, and leave the shampoo on for about 2 or 3 minutes to do its job. Now, if you're using a colored shampoo, like, a red refresher or a green shampoo that's used for brunettes or the purple blonde shampoo, that's when you want to take the shampoo and put from the mid shaft to the ends in one direction. Don't do this. Don't be rough. Let it sit on the hair. You can gently massage it in one direction down. Leave it in for about 3 to 5 minutes, depends on how much toning power you want. That's different. If you're using a clarifying shampoo, sometimes you have to pull the shampoo to the mid shaft and ends to really clean the hair. Now, I have shampoos that I use. Two Toe is a great example. The Two Toe pH, acidic pH clarifying shampoo is great, and you can use it as body wash because it does not overstrip your acid mantle. It does not strip hair color, and it cleans the hair from the product buildup. The other important thing too is if you're using a medical line, so like Mediceuticals, they are pH balanced, they are made through European standards, and they are truly a great brand. It tells you everything on the back, how to use it, and it tells your clients how to use a product. For example, this includes the shampoo, which is Folagen. You leave the foam, you let it act for 2 to 3 minutes. You rinse the hair and you towel dry, and then you apply the Biotin conditioner on the hair and leave it on for 2 or 3 minutes. Rinse hair with a towel and you put the Celagen Revitalizer on the scalp only. Massage and leave it on for the rest of the day and style as usual. Mediceuticals comes with a scalp treatment, which is their shampoo, comes with their hair and scalp treatment, which is their conditioner, and their little thing, which is what you use twice a day. That is what helps the hair. Now, their supplements, and this is the one for females. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Kiara says, I have to go. I have my last day training at the salon I work at. Congratulations, Kiara. Let us know how the journey goes. And all right, y'all, remember this. I will always make my live videos accessible after. So this is 57 minutes. I'm going to just type this in. Watch after. I will do my best also to try to get through some of the book to cover as much as this hair theory. So Juana, if you have any questions in case your phone dies and you watch this after, comment down below. And the next time I go live, I'll try to pick up where I left off or answer them. Oh, hi there. So I almost said Corrine. Is it Carrie Ann? Make sure I say the name right. Carrie Ann asks, other than red and purple, what would be a good color to color over muddy green? I would like to go back to blue black, but I'm not sure what I would need to bleach first. So you're experiencing muddy green. About what level is your hair? Is your hair currently lifted? Do you have like direct dye in it? Kind of like this? Or is it more of like a brown? So if your hair has, if your hair you use direct dye on, you could simply put blue over what you have now, or use a level 1N or a 1B with 10 volume. That will help to correct that. Color correction can always be a little tough depending on what you're dealing with. So I'll wait for that response. This is our product guide from Mediceuticals because I think it's a good example from the book. This chapter also mentions a lot about, the marketing, right? So also knowing the properties of the hair and the scalp, this protects us from making bad choices with marketing. Trust me, I've been in this field long enough where I've pretty much made every single mistake. It's part of the industry. It happens to the best of us. I would buy everything. Oh, it does this. Oh, it does that. Take a look at the big R brand, Redken. And I'm not picking on them, or Matrix, any of the L'Oreal brands. They have a product for everything when you can probably narrow it down to 3 or 4. I think I did the product analysis of Redken, and back in 2020, when they still had some of the brands before they discontinued, if I had purchased as a salon owner every single hair color, every single bleach, every single type of developer from Redken, I think I would have well over 25 different developers, probably 460 different brands of color. I think it was like 7 or 8 bleaches. Redken makes too much product. You can narrow it down to a few of them because it's basic chemistry. Juana says, next time, can I do color theory? Of course, Juana. Oh, specializing gray hair. Awesome. Now, do you mean gray hair as in covering gray hair, or, doing like the blonde gray where you're bleaching the hair? Because that's also a very important skill. Okay, so going back to the theory, hair bulb. Know that your hair bulb is the lowest part of the hair strand. It's going to be your club shape. If you've ever, pulled your hair out and you see that little white thing in there, that's your bulb. Your dermal papilla is going to be the cone-shaped elevation of the hair. It's going to be underneath. That is what contains the blood and nerve supply for the hair. Oh, Juana, we can do that. I'll do a live on that for you. And after the live, if I have some time, I'll do a video on covering gray. There's a lot of myths and rumors out there. Lisa Kelly, I took a course with her. She is incredible. If you're watching this, Lisa, thank you. You rock. She makes me laugh because she's a very big personality, but she drills the information into you, whether you like it or not. And I'm glad she forced out my whole, ammonia-free trip that I was on. Gray hair, and we'll talk about this in the properties of hair and scalp. Gray hair is, it's interesting. It's also an anatomy issue, and it's a hair color issue. It's kind of like when the two meet. Not all kinds of gray hair is resistant. On some people, the gray hair is resistant. On others, not so much. It has to do a lot with the texture of the hair. So if you have silky straight hair and it's silver, chances are it's not going to be resistant. If you have a client come in and she could be Chewbacca's mom and she's got thick hair and from a fact that you're going to have to use a whole bunch of hair color, chances are her gray hair will be resistant. My basic thing, and I'm going to cover this again because I believe in repetition and that's how you learn, to covering gray hair. I always start this way with a client. I do the consultation and I ask, are you okay with your hair being on the warmer side or the cooler side when it fades? 9 times out of 10, your clients are leaving you or not coming back or going to the box because we mess up and we do this. We do this all the time. 20 volume and 6N. And I'm being dramatic here because this is what I did as well. Studies show that the number one selling color over counter is 20 volume, and the number one color is 6N, and the number one developer is 20 volume. Why are we using 6N and 20 volume when you take 20 volume and you risk lifting the hair 1 to 2 levels? You have that natural hair that turns brassy. There's not enough pigment in that end to, neutralize the brass. Your client gives her hair, 2 or 3 shampoos. She's freaking out because she's brassy. She then goes into CVS and she sees on the shelf, oh, this color says, neutralizes out gray or covers gray. That's how we lose clients. So I ask that question, and I typically do 6A, ash, 10 volume, process for 45 minutes. I sometimes use a steamer if she's resistant. I rinse. I do not shampoo the hair. I use the cleansing conditioner from Head, which is acidic in pH. And I'll go all over this in a separate video on how I cover gray and how I do my gray coverages. When I shop for hair color brands, because I only use a select few now, the first question I ask at the beauty show is your color fully pigmented? If they say no, I don't buy it. If I tell them, do I need to mix this color with N to cover the white hair? If they say yes, I don't buy it. Two of my brands that I use, two of the brands I use are fully pigmented. Chromastix is fantastic, as well as the other one, because most clients have coarse hair. Coarse hair, which is mine, you need pigment. And if you lack that pigment, you're going to become a screaming orange. You're going to turn pink because a lot of product brands cheapen their product. And typically, red hair colors and gold hair colors might be able to lift slightly more because they are more alkaline. The alkalinity is needed to make that color develop. Hey there, Gorgeous Rose. She asks, how can I help my front hair retain more growth because my back always grows faster? I honestly don't know why. I have high porosity, coarse, thick hair, medium length. So, Ro, is your hair treated with hair color? Do you have any kind of chemical service done? And anything that would affect the growth of the hair? Because this is another good example. It is normal, by the way, too, and this is covered in the book as well, that you could have a client who's maybe their back of the hair grows thicker and fuller, but the front of it, not so much. The other important thing is that you have clients that maybe the sides of their hair is curly or a different curl pattern than the rest of their hair in the back. And knowing this, we can help do better services to our clients. I had a client, we would do a selective perm, a partial perm in the front to give her body because her hair was limp up front. I had another client who we would do a partial thigh relaxer because she was only curly up here. The rest of the hair we didn't need to touch. So I just relaxed her sides. So when you grow hair, now hair growth is important. Hair growth is fixed by the amount of follicles you have. Now, I always tell every client, if they've never been, do blood work and see, is the hair loss or the thinning of the hair caused by a thyroid issue? That resolves itself when you get the right treatment. Now, if your follicles are clogged, you need to unclog the follicles with a scalp treatment. There's different scalp treatments that they have on the market, and I consider the scalp treatment a lost art. With a scalp treatment, you are typically putting on a pre-shampoo. You're massaging the client's scalp. You're going to put the client under a steamer, let it steam. You're going to take the client back, and you're going to apply a special scalp cream that's going to cleanse it, massage that in there, put that client under a steamer. You're going to shampoo the client. You're then going to put another treatment on the client, put the client back under the steamer, massage, or use the vibration tool, which will help to cleanse the follicles out. That is how you deep clean the hair. These treatments are so valuable. Number one, it's a two-win. It's going to help the client with their hair and scalp. They're going to get better and thicker hair because of the blood flow. It's like a facial for your scalp. And you're going to get money as a hairdresser. And the client will most likely refer her friends to you because this is an issue. We are not treating the scalp scientifically. All too often, we fall victim to this. You get a bottle or a product that will say regrows hair, and we buy it, we say use it, and it does everything. I don't care if your product is $80 and it claims to regrow hair and it has all these great ingredients. Without the basic science and the basics of cleansing the hair manually and giving a client a scalp treatment, those products will be limited. It's also important to know, this is another thing I want to mention from the book, know that goosebumps are going to be the result of your erecti pili muscles. That will be on your state board exam for anyone taking exam. We covered the sebaceous gland and oil. Know that your hair cuticle is the outer layer of the hair. It's a single layer. It consists of a single overlapping layer of transparent scale-like cells that look like shingles of the roof. Know that your cuticle is what we have to fight for treatments. So, for example, you go to give a client a hair color service. Hair color that is hair that is in low porosity, they tend to have a cuticle that is like this. It's tight, it's compact. Now, you have a client who has medium porosity, which is about average. They're going to probably lift like you normally would with the color formula. If you have a client who has very high porosity, the hair is going to look like this on the ends of the hair. So if this is a straight cuticle, the ends are going to be all out like that and torn up. It's going to be eaten up. Whatever product that you use on highly porous hair, expect massive damage if you don't do it correctly. If we're normally fighting the cuticle for perms and bleach and relaxer, bleached hair is damaged. I don't care how healthy it feels, it is controlled damage. If you take bleached hair and you put the strongest perm on it for resistant hair and you let it process without checking it, you will get a nice pile of mush and it even feels gummy. That's because you've stripped off that cuticle so much and you've actually melted the inside of the cortex. And what you're feeling there is that substance in the cortex. It's almost like rubber cement for the hair. That's what you're feeling when the hair feels like gum. Pretty gross, I know. When you start to feel your hair and you feel it and it's rougher, that's usually a sign of high porosity. That's a porosity test. There's the tensile strength test where you pull the hair. And typically, if your hair is healthy, it will rebound. If it keeps stretching or if it breaks off, that's when you don't have good elasticity. All those matter when you're doing a perm or a hair color. Know that swelling of the hair that applying substances such as hair color raises the cuticle layer and opens the cortex, which allows the liquids to penetrate. We covered that. Also know too, right, that everyone's hair is going to be different, slightly different. Not all curly hair is porous. I've had a lot of false information on that. There are some types of curly hair that might naturally be porous because of the environment. So here's a really good example. The native culture of Australia, the Aborigines, that native culture, some of their hair, because if you see it, that culture lives away from the equator. So what happens is they don't have as much as a strong melanin as opposed to cultures that are closer to the equator. Their hair, if you've seen pictures, typically is like slightly orangey from the sun. That's all sun bleaching. Their hair is natural. It's not colored. It's not nothing is done to it. Just that sun from hitting their hair as it grows, it turns it that orange color from sun bleaching. That hair is porous, and you would treat that hair as a whole different level and as porous if you were coloring their hair. If you took hair bleach and you threw it on that person's hair who was out in the sun and it was orange and sun bleached, that will get lighter and lighter until it probably breaks and falls off. There's been situations where people don't know anything about sun bleaching, and what happens is they just apply the lightener all over, and they get their natural regrowth, which is orange, and the rest of their hair that is so yellow or completely fried off because from here down was exposed to the elements and it became porous. So know that even though hair is virgin hair, it might still have high porosity. Also know that the cortex is the most important part of the hair. 90% of the hair's weight is from the cortex itself. Natural hair color happens inside the cortex as well from our natural melanin, as well as know that you may or may not have a medulla. Medulla is not important for anything. They really don't know the function of the medulla. It's not involved in services. It's also common for very fine hair and natural blonde hair to lack a medulla. Some people think that typically a lot of curly hair has a medulla. It might not have a medulla as well. Basically, if you are worried about hitting the most inner layer of the hair, which is the medulla, know that you probably should be worried about some other stuff, because if you melt through that cortex, that hair is never coming back. Stripping away the cuticle starts to produce that porosity, and there's 5 grades of porosity, and this is not in the book. Grade 1 porosity is awesome because that's your client that you can do a lot of services on because she's got compact and tight cuticle. It's going to take a lot to open that. It's going to take a lot to really damage that. Now, if your client has grade 5 porosity, that's what I call, you done did it now run for the hills, because that client's going to be chasing after you. Grade 5 porosity is when we take the hair and you fully strip all throughout that hair. You strip off that cuticle, you shave off all those cuticle scales, you tear apart that cortex, you melt that medulla, and it is a point of no return. The only solution for grade 5 is the big chop and learn from that experience. That happens to the best of all stylists. There's always that one person that maybe it's one foil that might have melted off and you just kind of hide it. Maybe that one perm that you maybe didn't analyze correctly. So that one rod comes off with the hair attached to it and you get a pocket curl, so you just kind of hide it. That's where that comes into play. Now I have a prop I'm going to show y'all. Oh, you're welcome, Gorgeous Ro. Thank you for engaging us. That was a really good question. I tell everyone there's no such thing as a bad question. We learn from everyone in here. And like, this chat is fantastic. So this right here, and it's not good, actually falling apart. This is an example of what happens when you strip through the hair's cuticle. See how awful this looks? Look at that. It's discolored. It feels like Velcro. If you try to work with this hair, you're not going to get anywhere. It feels like the hair has been gelled. This was bleached. This was colored. And I proved a point. I took what was called a damage-free perm, and I processed it, and it said no test curl required. It gave it a very weak curl, and it made the hair feel like mush. And even up there, you see some breakage. This is the reality of overprocessing the hair. Also know cones. COHNS. Those are the essential elements. They're present in different levels of the hair. Carbon, 51%. Oxygen, 21%. Hydrogen, 6%. Nitrogen, 17%. Sulfur is 5%. It's also important to know too, so sulfur, right? It's only 5% of the hair, but sulfur is present when doing bleaching, coloring, or perming. When you break the disulfide bonds, sometimes if you break the bond, you release that sulfur. That could be the smell that you're smelling with hair color that smells a little funky. Also know that the process of the hair growing through the upward journey, the hair that grows from the derma papilla, it grows upward and it comes out as visible hair. Know that the journey is called keratinization. That's when you keratinize something, you harden it. Hair that is fresh out of the root right up here, it is finer, it is less tough, and it is more easy to damage. It is less keratinized. It doesn't have a strong layer of keratin. As these newly formed cells mature, they fill up with a fibrous protein called keratin. After they have filled with keratin, the cells move upward, lose their nucleus, and die. Now, that whole process is called I believe it's enucleation or denucleation. That does not happen with many cells in our body because most cells have a nucleus. If you look at cell theory, our hair cells and our blood cells are two cells in our body that do not have a nucleus. I thought that was pretty darn cool. And our hair is dead. It's just dead fiber. The hair shaft that emerges is a non-living fiber composed of keratinized proteins. Also know that when you're working with hair, right? Hair does not hurt when you cut it. Hair is not living. Hair is just dead protein. Everyone's hair also can grow differently. So some people show, like magical cartoons like Rapunzel, where her hair so long goes out of a tower for, miles and miles. That is not scientific. It's funny because I once believed that when I was a kid. Your hair has a limit and has a lifespan, typically about 3 to 5 years, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little longer, depending on things. Know that hair has a lifespan and your hair has a process of what it goes through. Know that your hair is made up of the essential elements, the cons elements: carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur. Proteins are made up of long chains of amino acids. These are units that are joined together end to end like pop beads, like those little beads that you play with in science. The strong chemical bond that joins amino acids together is a peptide bond, also known as an N bond. A long chain of amino acids linked by a peptide bond is called a polypeptide chain. Know that proteins are long, coiled, complex polypeptides made of amino acids. The spiral shape of a coiled protein is called the helix. So think of like DNA. DNA it's like a staircase, and it looks like this. That's a helix right there. Think of the helix as a spiral staircase. It's just like you're walking down. Because we're visual learners as hairdressers. Know that we have different bonds in the hair. We have what's called side bonds. One of them is a hydrogen bond. Hydrogen bonds are very weak, and it's a weak physical cross-linked side bond that is easily broken down by water or heat. There are so many of them, they account for 1/3 of the hair's overall strength. So what they lack for in strength, they make up in numbers. When you're working with, roller setting the hair, that's a hydrogen bond. We manipulated that. How cool is that? Now, when you're doing a perm, right? Think of a perm as a roller set with rods. You can also set the hair with rollers if you use something not metal. A perm is a roller set, but with a chemical. When you're doing a perm, you're breaking hydrogen bonds and you're breaking disulfide bonds. The hydrogen bonds break in a roller set and they're reformed by redrawing. However, it's temporary. If someone gets a roller set and they go out in the rain, their hair gets wet, well, guess what? Their hair goes back to being straight or wavy. Know that a salt bond is a weak physical cross-linked side bonds between polypeptide chains. Salt bonds depend on the pH, so they're easily broken by even getting your hair wet. Getting your hair wet, which changes pH using styling products that are high in pH or low in pH. They're easily broken by strong alkaline or acidic solutions. Even though there are weak bonds, there are so many of them, they account for 1/3 of the hair's strength. So typically with the side bonds in the hair and the hair strength, it's the rule of thirds. A third of your bonds are, the strength of it is from hydrogen, third of the strength is from salt bonds, and a third of the bonds are from, make this strong, disulfide bonds. Disulfide bond is a very strong chemical side bond that is very different from the physical side bonds of a hydrogen bond or a salt bond. The disulfide bond joins sulfur atoms to two neighboring cysteine amino acids to create one cysteine. The cysteine joins together two polypeptide strands. Although there are far fewer disulfide bonds in hydrogen or salt bonds, the disulfide bonds are so much stronger that they also account for about 1/3 of the hair's overall strength. So when they talk about that in layman's terms, that cysteine that you see in the hair, that's an amino acid that's part of our hair. Now, if you use This was a damage-free perm, by the way, which ended up damaging the hair. The damage-free perm is made with cysteine or cysteamine. That is an amino acid. The benefits of using a thiophore perm is that you're using this chemical, cysteamine, and it is able to break the hair's bonds without overdoing it. So you're given more forgiveness if your hair has multiple porosities. So know that your disulfide bonds, they're stronger, and they are way stronger than, the salt or the hydrogen. Know that disulfide bonds are strong chemical bonds. There's a really good chart here, and I'm going to go through a little bit of it. Know that hydrogen is a side bond, it is weak, it is physical, and it is broken by water or heat. And it is reformed by either drying or cooling the hair because you're resetting it. Know that your salt bond is a side bond, it is weak, and it is physical. It is broken by changes of pH, and it is reformed by normalizing pH. Know that your disulfide bond is a side bond, and it is a strong chemical bond. It is broken by extreme heat, hydroxide relaxers, thioperms, and thiorelaxers. And it is reformed by oxidation with a neutralizer, or it is converted to a lanthionine bond. You do not want your hair as a lanthionine bond. That is bad with a capital B. What a lanthionine bond means is that you have shocked your hair with such a horrible and strong alkaline product like a sodium hydroxide relaxer, pH of 14. You shock the hair so bad, pH-wise, that one of those sulfur atoms is broken off and forever lost with the hair. You renormalize the hair using a normalizing shampoo. You never, ever, ever use a neutralizer on hair that has been relaxed with the sodium hydroxide because you will get massive dryness or breakage. Lanthionine bonds are not compatible with oxidative color, bleaches, or peroxide because of the structural changes in the hair. It's a pretty bad when you have a lanthionine bond caused. It pretty much means your hair is destroyed cuticle-wise and your curl's been eaten out to where it's limp and straight. Right here is an example of a lanthionine bond. This right here is a mannequin, and you can tell right over here, she's definitely a high pH, not high pH, high porosity. This was a corrective perm. We actually tried to do an experiment where we put a sodium hydroxide over what once was a, Once was a thio. And if you can see this right here, it worked, but it didn't work as well, and the hair was very damaged. This right here has been hair that's been treated with a thio. In the back is a jerry curl, which we use to relax the perm and reform it. And right over here, my favorite, this prop right here, we just used regular liquid perm and we combed it and it made it straight. This is all with this basic science of manipulating the bonds. We were manipulating the disulfide bonds to get this permanent change in the hair. Lastly, the peptide bond, which is an N bond. It is a very strong chemical bond. It is broken by chemical depilatories. Chemical depilatories are hair removers like Nair. Or if you over-relax, that could be a depilatory. And what happens is that it says reformed by. They are not reformed. The hair dissolves and you get mush. So why is it important to know this? Well, let's say that you're a waxologist. Some waxologists use, hair removal cream. Hair removal cream, which you apply and you wipe off, is just dissolving the hair. You're breaking through that cuticle. You're breaking apart that cortex beyond repair, and you're breaking apart the bonds. When you dissolve the bonds, the hair falls apart, never to reform again. Also, let's talk about this. Hair pigment. Natural hair pigment is found inside the cortex of the hair. That's where the drama happens. There are two types of melanin, eumelanin or pheomelanin. I remember this as U is blue, like blue, black, or blue, brown. I'll type this in there. And for those of y'all that speak Spanish, I grew up speaking both Spanish and English. There was a word called fea, which means ugly. I call it pheomelanin, or what they call pheomelanin. it produces Faya orange and red. It's those ugly shades of like screaming orange and, yellow that is like, ah. So know that pheomelanin provides natural colors ranging from red and ginger to yellow and blonde tones, where eumelanin produces natural dark brown to black hair color. Know that wave pattern refers to the shape of the hair of the strand. It is described as straight, wavy, or curly, or extremely curly, also called coily. Natural wave patterns are the result of genetics. Although there are many exceptions, as a general rule, Asians and Native Americans tend to have extremely straight hair. Caucasians tend to have straight, wavy, or curly hair. And African Americans tend to have extremely curly hair, but straight, wavy, curly, and extremely curly hair occur in all races. And that is so important to know. So, oh, hey there. Echo says, I have to go. I have work in the AM. And wants to know, do I know when I'm going to go live next? When would work best for y'all when I go live? Do y'all prefer, the late nights? Because I'm on Eastern time, so it's, nighttime here. It's almost 1 o'clock. Is the time that I started good? Maybe a little earlier. I'll try to go on, later, so y'all can get the best out of this. I might even try. Tomorrow is not good. Perfect. Yeah, that works for me. Tomorrow is not good because I also tutor for a living on the side. And I have a late night tutoring session. So I could definitely maybe do either Sunday night. I'll say Monday night, maybe Monday. Friday, Saturday. I might be able to do a Saturday. Depending on how things go, I can try to do Saturday. And if that does not work, I will let you all know. If not next week, that will definitely work better next week for Friday or Saturday. And I try to go, live periodically throughout the week. You're welcome, Echo. Always great to see you. And because this is such a long chapter, and I think I covered a lot of the points in there, I think the next time I go live, I'll cover the rest half of this chapter because there's a lot to cover. And this isn't like my other videos cover the full chapter. This is just kind of clarifying on things and giving examples. I was able to get my props and whatnot. And I tell people, if you're a hairdresser, right, learning in groups is so important, right? And I'm trying to do this thing. This is my goal for the future prospectively. I'm trying to work on making my own personal tutoring company for cosmetology, where it'll be all the theory. We can do experiments. We can meet as a group, and we can do experiments together. So it'll be all the basic science. We'll be able to talk, products and all that stuff, and the importance of making your own swatches. So I always make swatches to show porosity, which is like level 5 porosity, and I do swatches for perms and colors. Thank you, Echo. Always great to see you. Great seeing you. I also got to get going to bed too because I have an important work obligation in the morning. So with that being said, I think here is a great place to stop. I will upload this video. It'll be fully public to anyone. Please like the video, go and share it. If y'all have any classmates that are stuck on stuff, come watch in a group and we'll have like a little watch party. It's all about the science, no drama, and none of the nonsense that you see out in the platform at the trade shows, or what I call the brand shows.